Wow, two videos in one day. I know, but I just had to get this thought out there. Uh, I don't like criticizing or attacking other people's work, and it's just, you know, I try not to attack them personally, but I don't criticize their work. If you're interested in paganism, megaliths, ancient sites, mythology, the biggest cancer within it is this thing called British Israelism. Now, British Israelism is was a movement. It still exists, but it's where basically Freemasons, Presbyterian ministers in the late 1800s and early 1900s got it into their heads that the Bible took place, or biblical elements took place in Britain and Ireland. And they were obsessed because of the King James Bible and its obsession with being more Jewish than the Jews. And that's all Lutheranism and Presbyterianism is. It was to depaganize Christianity from Catholicism. Catholicism only survived because it incorporated paganism, mostly classical paganism, but other aspects are brought in too. Regionally, of course. That's why Breed is Saint Bridget. The Celtic goddess Breed is Saint Bridget. And that went on all over. But that's not the point. The British Israelites were so desperate to be Jewish that they started to believe that these tribes of Israel, these fictional tribes of Israel, were Europeans. And they'd come to all over Europe. And they had the most amazing bullshit that's easily discounted. Now, within the alternative movement, the two biggest culprits are Ralph Ellis and Tessarian. Tessarian cannot even pronounce Tuatha because he's culturally British. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. He was raised in East Belfast at that British Ulster thing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's his background. But he's not an expert in this stuff. And the stuff he pushes is a lot of it, about his Irish mythology. It's absolutely British Israelism. Saying that Nuada is Noah. Man, I thought we were over this stuff decades ago. That there's loads of things like that I heard him say over the years. That the Arya comes from the Aryans. Era comes from the goddess Eru, which was one of the original tripartite goddesses of Ireland. Now again, I'm criticizing his work, not him personally. Although he loves to criticize people personally plenty of times. I'm not going to go there. But Ralph Ellis is wrong. He pushes the whole Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea thing in England. And that's all totally, completely, 100% British Israelism. Presbyterianism fetish to make the people on these islands Jewish. And that's all it is. There's nothing wrong with being Jewish. Just saying these people are not Jewish. Now, British Israelism was an appalling thing. They did untold damage to the Hill of Tara in County Meath in 1904, digging it up, looking for, wait for it, the Ark of the Covenant. What a monumental insult to our Celtic and pre-Celtic ancestors, that we need a fictional Ark of the Covenant from the Hebrew Bible to come here and give us culture. And that's ultimately what the British Israelite is about. That the Celtic people, the Germanic people, the Nordic people were all mindless animals until, characters from the Middle East, these Semites, came here and made us what we are. Now, I saw a video the other day that's getting unbelievable rotation to the point where I'm now getting suspicious, called The Last Druid. I even had one of my friends come up and this is an older video. I've seen it plenty of times, seen it circulating, but recently it's just been everywhere, and it's just bollocks. Even Tessarian and Ralph Ellis have done good work. But Monumental Bollocks wouldn't even cover it. For starters, he's claiming exclusivity. It can't be claimed as exclusivity. There was no such thing as the Last Druids. There would have been many Last Druids over the period of about 1,000 years. After Christianity took over in Ireland, the Druids continued as a group called the File, or Bards, in every manner that the Druids existed in, except they could not preach the pagan religion. Otherwise they were Druids. And they existed until the early 1600s, when, at the flight of the Earls, the old Gaelic kingdoms, defeated by the English and under English law, went to France and Spain and Italy and so on. That's when they vanished. That's when they vanished from Irish culture. There's probably more people watching that video around the world of Celtic ancestry who have more right to claim, or as much right to claim, I should say, of being the Last Druid as that guy in the video. First of all, that's the first part. Secondly, and this is important, his timelines are insane. The megaliths and the things like the dolmens, to say that the dolmens were bomb shelters for meteoroids built by the Druids. The megaliths were built thousands and thousands of years before the Celts existed. Now, if you've read the book The Druid Code, there's almost certainly a proto-shamanic druidry or druidism that Celtics of the later world may have tapped into. They may have, but there's not a lot of evidence that they may have used places like Avebury and even Stonehenge for places like rituals. Again, this comes from Victorian Presbyterians. And this is why they gave them names like Devil's Altar and Devil's Circle and all this stuff. And the Bloodstone or the Slaughterstone or the Sacrifice Altar. This is all Presbyterian, call it Second Temple Rabbinical Judaism, being passed off as a new form of Christianity. A hatred of anything pre-Christian. And Druids are else romanticized by the wealthy, who is trying to believe that this guy is somehow the descendant of these. Wait, this is the next part. They always bring it into Christianity. So this lunatic then claims, and this is what set off the red flags, that the Druids prepared us for the coming of Christ. And so he scoops in the Abrahamics. Folks, you got to be very careful. Question me. Question everybody. Just because there's a video with a romantic title, The Last Druid, and this guy gives a very, listable lobby, and that's what it is, a lobby for his imaginary title as The Last Druid, does not believe that that motherfucker is telling the truth. And always remember that. He's claiming exclusivity, like he's a king, or he's a divine leader, or he's a cult leader. I'm not aware of one human being on this earth today that could call themselves a druid. Not a single one. And if they do exist, they don't dress like those Anglican ministers you see at Stonehenge at the solstice. They don't wear fucking tiaras, and they don't go around self-consciously cosplaying druid. They be dressed in normal clothes. They be dressed like me, or in suits in business. I don't know who they are. They probably don't exist. More likely, Druidism or Druidry ended up in Freemasonry, in European Freemasonry. There's a very good case made by Thomas Paine in his History of Freemasonry book. But they're no longer Druids. So, don't be sending, first of all, as soon as anyone in this alternative or mainstream scene tries to connect your Celtic mythology or your Anglo-Saxon mythology to biblical stories and characters by calling the Tuatha De Danann. It's the Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of Daniel from the Bible. Wrong. Just wrong. They're either Freemasons with an agenda or they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't know which is worse. And secondly, don't believe that this guy's the Last Druid. many of you, maybe listening to this, have as much right to call yourself that than him. Anyone claiming exclusivity on anything like that, the Last Druid, the agenda of Jesus, the last descendant of King Arthur, run a fucking mile away. He's not the Last Druid. He's not even a plausible druid. Anyway, take care.